Very interesting. Jack. How long have you been doing Wireline? Yeah. Call the app. Love the Wireline. 4.5 inches.
Sawadee Good evening, everyone. From the noise I hear from spoon and fork, I think you're having a good food. So some say that we're having a best food for all SPE sections. So hope that's true. We should be proud of that at least. Good at food. Um, okay, my name is Panit Jesadawaranon. I'm the Vice Chairperson for Technical Program. Let me start our event tonight. Of course, I'm very happy to see you all face to face again. I think we are in a more relaxing environment now for the COVID-19. So I believe and hope that from now on we will have a face-to-face session. Having said that, previously we have pretty challenging time, but we managed to continue our mission to keep you informed of what's going on in our industry, or the new knowledge, to have it available to you with our monthly technical presentation. And tonight, it's our honor to have Dr. Saifon Daungkaew, who is sitting in front here. Okay. Typically, that's not our approach, but good. All right. So she will share the topic of Wireline deep transient test concept and field application versus conventional mini-DST. So our vision here, as you all know, is to be open to sharing information with our peers and across the company, so we can provide energy for the kingdom and, of course, to meet many new faces. And we absolutely would like to see the smile on your face. So for the agenda today, we start with our section announcement, and then continue with our meeting, closing remark, and then lucky draw. On the section announcement, we start with our membership, of course. As you could see, we do not have really good trend, which is pretty opposite with the oil price. It's supposed to be heading up, but we're heading down. Anyway, we hope to see more members, and of course, we hope that the people who hasn't renewed the membership, please consider to renew. We have 78 labs now, actually better number than last month, but we hope to see that improvement. So still, SPE is the largest professional oil and gas organization where you can regularly meet and greet in this relaxing environment. I'm not going to go through the SPE membership benefit here, but clearly one of the benefit is you can join this meeting for free if you book and register. That's one of the key one, I hope. And then you can also enjoy the update from the SPE Thailand section for any upcoming events. And then, and of course, if you have time, please also joining any other activity as well. And of course, this tonight could not be happening without our generous sponsor. So could you please give the round of applause to our nice sponsor here. Thank you, Kap. And if you did not see your company name here, you can contact one of our board member. We can put it on the sponsorship board for you with the price, but hope that you would consider that. Okay, Kap, without further ado, let me hand the stage to คุณเกษียณ our CEO, my boss, to give the introduction to our speaker tonight ครับ Dr. Saifon ขอบคุณครับคุณเกษียณ
Thank you, Kap Kun Panit. I don't know what you're talking about CEO, but yeah, if you want me to be CEO, I'll be for you. So, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Kasian. I'm the program chair for SPE Thailand, as you all know. Again, tonight was actually very special. I see very, very familiar faces show up for the first time. and a lot of the good people, I can see all the smiles on the face. So it's the honor of the SPE, right, that we organize this kind of setup for you. Speaker tonight, actually we know each other for quite some time, back almost 20 years ago. And I must tell you that, Dr. Saifon, a couple years ago, SPE Thailand, trying to nominate her as the distinguished lecturers, right? Distinguished lecturer is basically a person who travel around to many sections around the world and give the talk, right? But unfortunately, at the time, she was busy with raising her young kids, so she could not commit to extensive travel. But anyway, we have her tonight, so I hope you enjoy. Again, not only the food that Kun Panit mentioned is the best in SPE sections. I hope that you learn something new tonight as well. Okay. So, to do the speaker introduction, our speaker tonight is a reservoir engineering advisor from Schlumberger. She has her first degree in chemical engineering from Prince of Songkhla University, Thailand. She received her master and PhD degrees in petroleum engineering from the Royal School of Mines, Imperial College in London in 2002. She has begun working in the oil and gas industry for more than 19 years. Her background is well test analysis. She has been supporting Wireline formation tester for various locations, including Southern Europe, Mediterranean region, and Asia Pacific. So this includes Malaysia, Brunei, Philippines, Thailand, Myanmar, Vietnam, Indonesia, and Oman, several countries. She has over 60 publications and 3 US patents. She has been served as visiting lecturers and co-supervisor for master thesis for various universities in Thailand, Malaysia, UK, Abu Dhabi, and Australia. She also served as judges for SPE Thailand Awards and SPE Young Professional Presentations Award. She has been served as Technical Program Committee for SPE, EAGE, IPTT Conference, and SPE ATW and SPE Forum Series since 2002, including local technical publications such as Geological Society of Malaysia. She has also received 2018 Regional Technical Award for the Reservoir Description and Dynamic for the Northern Asia Pacific. She's actually the first Thai person who received this award, so we are very honored on that as well. So ladies and gentlemen, please join me for a very warm welcome of our speaker this evening, Dr. Saifon Daungkaew, Reservoir Engineer Advisor from Schlumberger.
Thank you for the very nice introduction, Kasian and the SPE team. So today my presentation is on the Okay, so it's actually I'm going to, I think everyone know about the mini-DST. A lot of people, we have been talking about this topic for the last 20 years. So today what I'm going to present to you is the deep transient test concept, field application versus the conventional mini-DST. So the outline of the talk today is first I'm going to introduce a little bit on the wildlife formation tester history, application. I'm going to talk about the mini-DST, or we known SPE term as Interval Pressure Transient Test, IPTT, concept and field application. Before I going to discuss about the gap of this technology versus the well testing. And then I'm going to start with the introduce the deep transient test or the DTT in terms of concept, field application, and also the sustainability part on the job that we did so far. And then I'm going to end with the conclusion and recommendation, and then going to be open the floor for the question later on. But if you have a question, please raise your hand, and then I try to address. We have time on this today. So when we talk about the wireline formation testing tester, the information that obtained from this test, first of all, is we obtain the pressure, and then we obtain the reservoir fluid information, such as and also the fluid sampling. And also we can do what we call like a microfrac to get the reservoir geomechanics, minimum horizontal stress, to actually to validate with the 1D MBM model for the geomechanic purpose. But another big portion of the formation tester is to get the permeability and also what we know as the mini-DST, and also now with the new application, what we call like a deep transient test or the DTT. So a little bit back into the history of the formation tester. The first formation tester come in 1950, where we actually go and then take the sample for the first time. But this too is without any pump, so it just go down, open the bottle, and then get whatever the fluid to coming in. The big step come when we have the modular formation tester, where we have the different inlet, different pump, different sampling chamber, and also the fluid analyzer. And then the technology come when we have the single probe. We also come up with the dual packer. Later on, we have the downhole fluid analysis come at the early 1990s. And with the 2005, we actually have the tool that actually called the focus sampling probe that be able to get a clean sample in much shorter time. Another big step come when we have the single inflatable packers, where we be able to get the pressure and also sampling in the condition that we couldn't do before with other probe. And here in 2019, we introduced the intelligent wireline formation testing platform. And these tool not only be able to take pressure sample, do the IPTT or the mini-DST like other tool, we also introducing the new concept which called the deep transient test or the DTT. So now let's talk a little bit on more first on the mini-DST. The mini-DST term is actually the proper SPE term is Interval Pressure Transient Test or the IPTT. That is where we actually take the downhole wireline tool, go down, isolate the zone, and then we flow from the formation into this tool. While flowing, we measure the pressure drawdown and pressure buildup. And from this pressure buildup, we can plot like a pressure derivative, similar way as the well testing. And from there, we analyze those flow regime and come up with the reservoir parameter, which is like a pressure, permeability thickness, horizontal permeability, kV over kh, radius of investigation, and then also uses to calculate the productivity index. So if we have only one single actually inlet, we call that IPTT, can be the probe, can be the dual packer, and then all the single inflatable packers. We're going to discuss a little bit more on the limitation of each of the two later on. But then if you have another probe where we actually just sit there and measure the pressure change, where we have the pressure change when we pump here and we have the pressure change, that another probe or two probes sit and listen. That one we call like a vertical interference testing or the VIT, that we can measure the vertical connectivity between the inlet source probe and the observation probe. And analyzing the pressure transient of these, of the inlet source probe and the observation probe, we can come up with the reservoir parameter and also understand the reservoir connectivity. So this is actually what we know as IPTT or the mini-DST. So first, let's look at the example of the IPTT. This example is actually back in 2006 in Malaysia. It's a shallow marine, Sarawak site. We actually have the reservoir where it's actually the classic reservoir shallow marine 15 meter. We go down with the dual packer and then we conduct the pressure sampling and also do the pressure buildup. And on the same zone, we later on conduct the DST. And from here, we be able, this is the IPTT or the mini-DST. We take time around 3 hours. We draw down, we pumping, we take a sample and we do a pressure buildup. And from that 3 hours, the horizontal permeability that we derive is 180 miniDST. We see 66 meter into the reservoir. The same zone, we go down with the DST. DST take like a 7 day. And with the 7 day, is actually, we get the horizontal permeability around 200 miniDST. So it's not far off. But we be able to see deep into the reservoir like at 300 meter. So from this is the first example to show the direct comparison between the mini-DST with Wireline compared to the DST. In this case, we use a dual packer. And if we're looking at the comparison of this mini-DST with the DST with the NMR logs, and even the in this case also we have the probe mobility. Just to show here, you see that mini-DST matching nicely with the DST, and then also in this case the NMR also consistently. The second example, this is the Gulf of Thailand. That we actually the waxy oil, the reservoir is around like 17 feet, also it's not that thick. We have the dual packer again, the mini-DST conducting, and the permeability, as you see here, is 1,600 miniDST, so it's high perm, good kind of the waxy oil. We'll be able to get the same radial force stabilization, which giving the same permeability thickness to compare to the TST or the well test. However, again, because of the high permeability here, the IPTT or mini-DST, we can have only 5 psi pressure drop. The data has some noise, therefore we will just be able to get the radial flow, but we will not be able to see any reservoir boundary. Compared to the well test, where we actually stay 17 hours at the station compared to 3 hours with the mini-DST, here we'll be able to see like 2,500 feet into the reservoir. And here, therefore, the TST, we're able to see nicely the reservoir boundary. So from those two examples, we show to you that in terms of the permeability, if the sand is not that thick, the mini-DST can be able to see the same as a permeability. But so here, actually, before I move to the next step, what I want to kind of show is that we know the permeability can come from core, can come from logs. Those is a static information. We also have the dynamic permeability from the formation testing, from the well test. And these, in order to use this data, the most important is we need to understand actually the different scale of the permeability, also the use and the limitation of the data. So this is very crucial. Before I move to the next step, actually a lot of this paper, we have the team that actually contribute to this, many of them in the room. So later on, I have the list of the paper at the back here for the reference for the paper. So this is actually the work that we did in order to understand the different scale of the pressure transient. I was talking to you that transient we can do from the probe, just a pumping of the sampling and then do a pressure build-up. We also have the dual packer or the single packer mini-DST. We also have the well test. So this is actually the study that we did together in the with the master degree at the Chulalongkorn University to come up with the simulate different scale of the transient, putting different shale barrier with the different size, different shape, and also different distance. And from there, what we actually simulate the transient is showing that this is with the single probe. This is using with the dual packer mini-DST, and this one using the well test. So from this, what we actually see that if the sand is not too thick, and we be able to reach the radial flow, these 3 measurements, we can get the permeability, horizontal permeability, if we get the same radial flow stabilization. However, if you have a little bit of shale in, for example, that if you have lamination or something, the pressure transient in the smaller scale, such as the probe and also the dual packer, you can see those effects of the shale barrier. And because of you flow in a much smaller scale, compared to if you flow with the well test scale, its flow is much bigger volume, bigger rate. Therefore, those effects of the shale will not be able to see it. Small shale will not be able to see in the well test. But you see those, and it's a lot in the single probe, a little bit more, slightly less using the dual packer. So here, what the message that we get is that if we want to analyze the IPTT with the probe, or if we want to analyze the mini-DST with the dual packer, we need to understand the reservoir heterogeneity. Sometimes you can see one radial flow, sometimes you can see 2 or 3, so that we need to integrate with the other open hole logs, try to get the make sense of the data. However, if you're looking at the well test scale, it's much bigger for volume, and therefore you overlook on those heterogeneity, and you get more representative in those kind of interval. Now, let's take a little bit more extreme when we do the mini-DST in the deep water. This is actually the deep water reservoir in Asia, 35 meter. So with the 35 meter, we cannot actually do only one single mini-DST. Usually with the dual packer is a 1 meter interval. Single packer is around 60 centimeter. So here what we did is that we did 1, 2, 3, 4. And with these 4 mini-DST, what we also do is we integrated with the open hole log, high resolution log, try to find top and bottom boundary that can come and then be able to build as a radial flow. And from there, we be able to get 1, 2, 3, 4, the horizontal permeability and also the KV over KH. This is just to better demonstrate that. So this is the top zone. This is the permeability average. This second zone, third zone, and fourth zone. And from there, we use the arithmetic mean, and then we upscale to the entire interval. So this is how we did this. Actually, this work is probably in 2000 and probably 18, that before we have the deep transient test. And so from here, if you look at the average permeability from the upscaling, we can see that it's not far off from the NMR permeability. And here, actually, unfortunately, we don't have the well test to compare here. Therefore, the information is just to compare with NMR, and then we calculate the well deliverability based on this information. Now, let's move to the kind of summarize what I said to this one is that when we compare the IPTT or mini-DST to the well test, so if we are talking about the horizontal permeability, if we reach the radial flow, then we should be able to get the horizontal permeability. Also the zone anisotropy or KV over KH, skin factor, we can also derive except for the probe. And with the time per station, mini-DST take much shorter time, 0 hours, compared to the well test that day 2 weeks. However, another drawback of this Wireline formation sample is that the clean quality of PVT sample is depend on the how long you pump, what volume you pump, what environment. Therefore, it's not always that we get a very clean fluid. Depend on job by job and how we decide the job. Compared to well test, where you actually flow much more volume, much longer time, and therefore you'll be able to get a cleaner sample. But in terms of the advantages that mini-DST is much cheaper, there is no flare. We can test zone by zone. Therefore, it's more than one station. We can test zone by zone, and we have a better resolution. And in terms of flexibility, it's actually low footprint. No surface facility is needed. And the test results that if we plan the job properly, because we pump from the formation rather than get it flow, so then we'll be able to get the success, get a nice pressure drop and nice pressure build up, even in the ultra low permeability, ultra heavy oil or unconsolidated sand. However, if compared to the well test is much more expensive. We need to flare, we need to have surface facility. And in the high pressure, high temperature, deep water, or it's expensive rig, is actually we tend to do more commingled tests rather than to do the zone by zone testing. And then therefore, and also need a surface facility. And in the certain very challenged condition, it's not guaranteed that you can sustain the flow and get the pressure transient, good pressure transient. However, in terms of the limitation, the IPTT have this limitation which is actually the limit radius of investigation. We cannot pump that long time, and that is due to the, we don't want to actually have a lot of hydrocarbon into the wellbore due to the wellbore dynamics or wellbore issue. Therefore, usually we will pump like several hundred liters in a single job, or in certain cases, some clients may allow us to pump thousands of the liter, but that is usually the maximum that we see, right? And also in terms of the rate, mini-DST have a limit of the downhole rate. We can pump up to like 40 to 50 cc per second, which is around 20 to 25 barrels per day. Therefore, we have a very limitation when we have a high perm, when we are in the gas reservoir, or where we are in the thick reservoir where we couldn't have the radial flow, that we see only the spherical flow. So that is a limitation of the mini-DST. And also in terms of well deliverability, we're not flowing to the surface with the mini-DST, and therefore that we need to calculate or simulate from the IPTT derived information. And this, I'm saying this is that we have I also put some note on the IPTT when we are using the probe, right? I think a number of people, that when we talk about the mini-DST, some people actually characterize the probe as a mini-DST. But I think for myself and also from the people that if we talk about the mini-DST, usually it's like dual packer or the single packer. The probe, we more call it like a IPTT or the smaller scale. Therefore, there's limitation that it cannot decompose the permeability from those derivatives. Also, the uncertainty in KVKH, and then it's affected a lot by the reservoir heterogeneity. Therefore, with the probe data, we should not overuse those data to come up with the IPR and then come up with well deliverability, because much more smaller scale compared to the dual packer or the single packer. Now, I think that is what I show you in terms of the IPTT and DST or the well test. Now let's move to the DTT or the new concept or the deep transient test. So the term of the deep transient test is that we see the limitation of this IPTT, that the limit in the rate, limit in the how much volume that we can pump, limit in the radius of investigation, and also the process that to come with the well deliverability. So we come up with the DTT, the deep transient test concept, where we want to be able to, actually this is the radius of investigation term, the new term that derived by taking into account of the time of the resolution of the gauge and also with the rate. So from here is that in order to get that deeper into the reservoir, we need to flow faster. Flow faster is mean that you'll be able to increase the rate. If you are in the gas reservoir high perm, you have enough pressure drop, try to generate the pressure drawdown and get the much better the pressure build up. Also be able to flow in the low permeability, in the ultra low, ultra tight, then you need to go very slow rate. So you need to have the rate that be able to facilitate from very low to very high rate. For longer, what does it mean? You don't want to put the hydrocarbon into the wellbore, especially the gas, high pressure, high temperature environment. You don't want to put a lot of gas to try to be the under balance. So here, what we come up with, we have the circulating sub, that instead of putting the hydrocarbon into the wellbore, we mixing with the mud before we putting in. And therefore, instead of only 100 of the liters or like maximum 5 to 600 liter, we can pump up to like unlimited. And we will show you the record that the job so far, we pump like 25,000 liter into the reservoir, and we did the DTT so far, and with the zero incident of the wellbore dynamic issue because of how we decide the circulating hydrocarbon and mix with the mud before putting into the wellbore. And also another thing is that improve the gate resolution, have the way that to actually removing or have the quiet zone where we have a less noise in the pressure transient, that we can get a good pressure build up and pressure derivative. And with that, we integrated with the contextual insight, where we integrated with the reservoir simulation, taking from the log scale to the reservoir scale, do the simulation on the fly. When we finish a job, we matching the pressure transient together with our model and come up with the IPR and well deliverability. So this is actually the concept of DTT. And here is to actually helping us to follow the UN SDG, the sustainability in terms of the responsible consumption and also the climate action. So a little bit on the, this is a short video just to show you the concept of deep transient that we can go down. We have two inlet. Inflation is much shorter time. Interval here is much bigger. We actually pump fluid, circulate it with the mud before putting to well bore. The flow rate can up high to this amount, 108 barrel per day or 200 cc per second. We can actually do this test with the gauge in even the high pressure, high temperature. And here to get the end products that here is the job that we demonstrate to you that we pump for 6 hours and we see 600 meter into the reservoir. So a little bit on the two that with the inlet, we have the two inlet. We have the focus radio probe where we can get a clean fluid in all the condition like a very tight formation, unconsolidated sand, and also even like in the condensate case. So we can do the focus sampling even in the low perm. We can also we come up with the dual packer dual inlet, where this interval can be extend up to 15 meter, and we be able to actually take the clean fluid and also isolate much bigger interval. And we can combine this probe in the different configuration, can combine one of these probes together with this one or the different probe depend on the job objective. Here is an example that we did for the quite the first few the DTT that we did. This one we did in the unconsolidated sand. The total loose sand is shown in the core. We pump 128 cc per second, which is around 60 to 60 barrel per day. We be able to get this nice pressure derivative even with the 11 DASI or 11,000 milli-DASI oil bearing zone. And with the 6 hours of the test, we'll be able to see 600 meters into the reservoir. And this is a paper that talking about this this example. This second example is offshore a pressure well. We go down with the prototype tool. Is the sand is a 6.4 meter zone. Because see 1.5, we be able to get nicely pressure derivative, and this from different gauge, and this is from one of the main gauge that we can derive the permeability 1,300 milli-DASI. And here with this job, we pump only this station 2,700 liter that we pump into the well bore, and total time we pump with the rate of 60 barrel per day, and the total time of the 22 hours. And with this rate, we'll be able to get the 50 psi drawdown, where if I show you the previous example, if we were to use the previous generation, the IPTT, we can have around 5 psi drawdown. So that is quite a big difference in terms of the rate and the drawdown. Here is an example where we have the comparison with DST. This is a DST conducted in the same zone. This is the DTT. You can see that we can see the same kind of the behavior in pressure derivative. Total pumping on the DTT station is around 3,000 liter. And we have the good agreement in terms of the permeability derived from the DTT compared to the DST. And even the boundary is quite consistent. Last year also we have the one of the client ENI, they're presenting in the technical presentation in Europe that the title is ENI Deep Transient Test Experience. So they actually show their experience on using the Aura DTT when they go to do the exploration in many parts of the world. So this is actually the example 5 is of their first experience on DTT, and later example is showing. Just a little bit comment on this plot over here. Here is actually the pumping time and build up time that we can pump. Like in this case, we pump 10 hours and build up 11 hours, or build up 16, or build up 24 hours. So this can be actually, we can look at the data in real time, everything can control. A little bit noisy here because we have the issue on the pump. In this case, we can pump only 20 cc per second. Therefore, the data is very noisy. But then can show that with the E&I, when they go to do exploration around the grove, that they do a lot of, instead of need to mobilize like a DST, they actually go and then do the DTT. Actually, Mike, my colleague here, he actually come here for the holiday, and he's the one who run probably all of this job in Africa and those. So if any more questions, you have someone to ask. And this is another DTT example. In Russia, is actually the first experience in Russia. In Russia, they need to have the gas flow to the surface and measure the gas at the surface. So that is actually the regulator of the gas to book the reserve. We also did the DTT together with sampling. Actually, in the same job, we did the two descent of the two. We did 44 pump out and sampling station, and we did like a 2 DTT tests. And from here, we actually combine the DTT equipment with the surface facility to be able to pumping gas, to have the gas at the surface, be able to measure the gas volume, and be able to measure the gas flow rate from this DTT operation. So this can also be done, depend on the objective and depend on the regulation that do you need to flow the gas to the surface or not. And this is another example in Gulf of Mexico. Number of operator is a partner, which is one of them is actually sitting in this room over here. Actually, that in this job, we also conduct pressure, sampling, and DTT. But this is actually, this job is actually, we show the use of contextual insight. While we're running this kind of the pressure transient, we also at the same time, we prepare the reservoir structure model. We actually, from the log data, we convert the log to the reservoir scale. From the PVT that we measure downhole with the new tool, we can generate the equation of state on the fly. So from those EOS, we plug it into the static model and run the simulation. So after the job, we'll be able to match our actual data together with the simulation to be able to come up with the connected volume or the minimum connected volume and also the IPR. And this workflow is actually now is we plan to do this in depend on the kind of objective. But if your objective is to get the IPR, to get the well deliverability, this is actually the workflow that we usually do. So here, actually a lot of, so just to say that by using this DTT, we'll be able to close the gap between the IPTT and well test. We can have the much variable the rate up to like a 200 cc per second or the 100 barrel per day. We can test much deeper. We can pump with the no limit, and also at the same time is help to sustainable. So this is a job record. We did so far since 2017 with the prototype 2. We did 23 jobs so far, 2 in gas. The highest permeability is 11 DASI, 11,000 mini-DST reservoir. We have 0 well control issue. We have actually before the job, we simulate how much the gas we're pumping in, how we're going to circulate, in what sequence, and actually monitor in real time, make sure that we're able to have safely operate. The deepest radius of this investigation that we see is around 600 meters, and we pump highest volume is around 25,000 liters, which is 157 barrels that we pump. The lowest permeability is actually 0.0048, and actually in Asia that Mike and I watched together that job, and since that we actually did 3 jobs so far from that operator, and with the highest flow rate, which is 200 cc per second. And here actually to prove that by using a DTT, we can do the job deep transient on Wireline in real time. We can actually get the zone deliverability, hydrocarbon in place. We can integrate with the live product, which is actually digital planning, and be able to update the data in real time. light footprint, fast mobilization, no flare, and that can be used for the reserve booking technology. And this is actually the footprint, our global footprint, 28 customer, 15 country. This is up to May this year. And here, actually, in terms of sustainability, that the deep transient test will help us to reduce the CO2 emission, and that's follow the UN. This is a job in Asia that we did. We saved total the past 3 years, one operator, we saved 7 DST, which is actually we reduce CO2 emission up to 81%. And actually, 1 DTT in Southeast Asia, we save 15 days of the rig time. And we already up to date. We save 7 DST so far, this is just to show you the calculation of the CO2 emission, which is actually just presenting in this month for the SPE WLA on how we calculate this. And by this job, 7 DST that we save with that operator, we'll be able to save 2,900 car off of the road annually. So that's from our 7 DST only in Asia, only with one client. So in terms of conclusion, I hope this presentation is giving you that what is the IPTT, and then show you that and what is DTT. And with to conclude, the IPTT permeability can match with the DST, but we need to understand the different scale of the data and need to use the data properly. The probe IPTT, I think, should not be considered like a full mini-DST and need to be used with care because they have a more limitation. And with the IPTT or the mini-DST, even with the dual packer or single packer, there are limitations in terms of the rate, in terms of how much hydrocarbon we can pump. Therefore, if it's high perm, gas reservoir, thick reservoir, there is a limitation. So be able to close that gap, we introduce the deep transient test that be able to do the higher downhole flow rate with variable flow rate, safely pump and circulate hydrocarbon into the wellbore that we can pump much more hydrocarbon and unlimited. And we'll be able to get the better transient data and integrate it with the contextual insight to come up with the well deliverability or the reserve. And with this, we can help to reduce the energy consumption and CO2 emission. And so I want to end today's talk with the DTT. This is come from the E&I paper, safer, cleaner, and cost-effective reservoir testing. So that's my talk.
Thank you very much, Dr. Saifon. As an ex-Wireline engineer, I'm very impressed how far we come for the formation tester. Very cool. So, any question from the floor? No question, no? No. Got to be one.
I know there's some other first.
Thanks, Saifon. It's really, really interesting. I mean, we have been talking about this for some time. I mean, I think this is one question I have asked you before as well. So, are there places where you can't really use DTT, or you won't recommend to use DTT, or go for, say, DST or IPTT?
No, I think it's, the thing is when we actually use the technology, it needs to be fit with the purpose or the job objective, right? What I kind of showing here is that if the job that you plan, you can use a IPTT, that's good enough, then let's do it. And if that is your objective, right? But then if it not fit your environment, then you need to look at other technology. So I can see that when we talk about DTT, we come very far away from the mini-DST. But still, this is quite the beginning. We introduced this in 2019. We still have many years to go. So by the time we learn and other thing, what a little bit of, I can see your concern is when you are in the this tool is rated to 200 degrees C. So we still have the reservoir where it's over 200. So that cannot be used, this tool, right? Also, we have seen in high permeability oil reservoir the data is nicely show. In terms of gas reservoir, I think with the 100 barrel per day, we might still have some limitations. So we need to see, and that need to be extensive, big reservoir. And so we will simulate, and we will see also another thing that vertical interference testing on those kind of reservoir, even with the aura that we need to simulate and see, right? Whether how far we can push this technology.
Maybe I'll ask this next question, because you just mentioned about the limitations in the gas reservoir. Why you have so less gas reservoir?
Because most of the reservoir that we dealing with all around the world, mostly oil, right? Gas, actually, I'm looking for the gas. Gas you have where? Russia, China, and then Southeast Asia. Actually, that's why that so far we did like 7 DTT in Southeast Asia, right? We're going to do a high temp one in 2 months' time, other thing. But I think the market that we're looking gas reservoir is here, like in Asia. So it will take time before we have more example. Mike, yeah.
Thanks.
Can you comment?
Yeah, Chris Pratt from PTTP. Can you also calculate a skin from DTT?
Yes, I mean that the skin from DTT is similar to the well test, right? So we can derive the skin out of from the pressure transient, so no problem. But the skin cannot be derived from the probe, IPTT. Only the probe. But if you are talking about the dual packer, IPTT, if you're talking about single packer, we can derive skin, and also the DTT. So DTT is similar to the well test skin. If you test it in the open hole, it's an open hole skin. If you test it in the case hole, it's a case hole skin. Can. So my answer is can. Ka, Kun Chris.
Okay, thank you. It's just that you compare, you have a lot of examples comparing the results with DST, but I didn't see any skin comparisons.
Oh, I see. The skin, actually, if you want to compare, then you need to compare with the damaged skin, right? Because if you compare with the partially penetration skin, it will be different scale. So when you get the skin from the DTT, you need to decompose from the partially skin and also the damaged skin. And when you compare, you need to compare damaged skin. But yes, we didn't compare and show you the comparison on the example.
Yeah, thank you.
Good one. Okay.
Mike?
Hello, my name is Yuda and I'm from Chula. I want to ask about the IPTT test. So let's say we are doing tests in the thickness. The thickness of reservoir is quite big, and we do the test using this one because it's cheaper than the well test. And can it be interpret the small thickness from the equipment itself to the bigger reservoir, or is it thickness and the time is which one is the properties that could be handled? But I mean the important from the equipment, is it the result, is it the thickness or the time? Thank you.
The thing is, let's say for the Wireline, depend on the conventional that we do is like 1 meter interval, right? 1 meter interval, when you test, you're not seeing the behavior only 1 meter. If you see the radial flow, which is let's say 15 meter, you will see the whole behavior of those come from those of 15 meter. I'm looking at so that's why so you get the average permeability from those of the reservoir, not only that 1 meter that you test. But you need to make sure that whatever you see, you understand where you see it, right? So let's say that if you are using smaller scale, you have like a changing permeability. Let's say that this is like 10 mini-DST. You have another one 15 mini-DST at the further away. So when you see, you might see the one radial flow here and also another radial flow over there. And therefore, you need to understand that this radial flow that you see come from width thickness to be able to derive the correct permeability. And that is to integrate it with your logs, right? But when you do the DTT, when you actually, you know you have 50 meter zone, you have flexibility of increasing the interval. So you're not putting only 1 meter interval. You can put 3 or 4 to get more representative, right?
Thank you so much.
Thank you for your presentation, Saifon. In 2010, the Security Exchange Commission, changed the definition of what was required for booking reserves volumes to not only use DST, dual stem tests, as traditionally for the last 80 years, but also to include other advanced technologies, integrating various petrophysics and seismic together with dynamic tests. And then West Africa followed suit shortly after, where the regulatory authorities would accept a good test in combination for booking reserve volumes. Now you say you've done 7 of these deep transient tests here in Southeast Asia. My question is, how is it locally in Southeast Asia being accepted by the regulatory authorities as a means for booking reserves?
Maybe someone from the operator can help to answer.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, could Chris actually raise his hand? He can help.
Yeah, Chris Platt from PTT EP. I guess when when Chris Energy drilled East Mayura exploration well, we engaged DMF in, Kun Saifon assisted with the attempt to convince them to recognize any reserves that were determined from wireline formation testing in lieu of mobilizing DST. So it's kind of like a small victory for the operator in that we didn't have to mobilize DST equipment. But I don't think it was ever put into writing. It was just perhaps a one-off deal with DMF, but it kind of paves the way for ratification in Thailand anyway.
I want to comment on the Vietnam. We do the same thing, right? We have the operator that want to use this as an example I show you of the deep water. So we actually, those operator, they take us to see the VPN Vietnam, the regulator, and we present our technology. We have the DST comparison, other things. So that actually we got approved that we can actually use the mini-DST at that time, not the DTT because we don't have DTT yet, to actually prove the reserve. But then they also want to see the direct comparison with DST, which actually it's just got the cancer. That's one for the Vietnam. For Malaysia, we actually, MPM, the regulator of the Malaysia, they actually just released their document on the reserve booking. And actually it states clearly now with the advanced technology, with the mini-DST and those, it can be used to certify the reserve. So it's getting there.
Dr. Saifon ครับ I'm Hanit from Mubadala Petroleum. Just let me ask from another aspect. So from the reserve estimation context, do you think there is still a constraint or limitation that the mini-DST or IPTT could not replace DST itself? Anything that you still need to flow the well to surface?
Yeah, no, I think it's depend on the, depend on the country by country and also depend on the regulator, right? But as Mike said, that most of the kind of the country now allow to be able to prove the reserve with this technology. However, as I mentioned, Pata asking what the reservoir where we think this technology might not be able to applicable or be able to reach the limit. I think it takes few years to actually explore that. My kind of thinking is that in the gas high permeability, then we need to see the results and high pressure, high temperature, how long it can sustain, because these two, we said that 500 hours into the reservoir with 200 degrees C is would survive, but then we would like to see the actual job, that job is happening, right? And to see the actual results.
Thank you ครับผม Any further questions from the floor?
คุณรอนใหญ่
Maybe also for Steve on the authorities, or what the DMF would say here on reserves. Yeah, and I think the key basically is here reserves is what kind of reserves you're talking about. Yeah, are you talking about 2C or 2P or 1P? Yeah, and for the authorities and also for all companies, the most important thing is what kind of reserves are you booking. Yeah, so a well test can never do 2P reserves. It will always be 2C or 1C. Yeah, so that's always. Yeah, so in that sense, it doesn't really matter. And here for the authorities, they only care about 1P reserves. Yeah, so again, for a DST, you will never be able to book 1P reserves with a DST or this new test. You need to have facilities in place. Yeah,
Yeah, Ronald. For that particular well, the deal was that if we could prove mobile hydrocarbons and sufficient reserves, we would have been granted a production area, you know, or an area from which we could produce.
Movable reserve, yeah.
That was the deal we had with DMF, but I think it was probably a one-off.
so it is always contingent.
Any further question? 1, 2, 3 sold โอเคครับ Thank you นะดร Saifon. Okay. So for special for tonight, may have คุณเกษียณ on stage to present the token of appreciation from X Wireline to Wireline.
I turned it off, sorry, it's my fault.
Just wait. Bling, bling, bling. I think you got to buy me a new one. Okay. So you might have to use your imagination a bit. Let's continue with the closing remark while waiting for the projector loading. มาแล้ว ผมไม่ต้องทำมาแล้ว
ไปเลยนะครับไม่อะไร
ได้มัน
เอามุมอื่นด้วยนะ
คือมาถ่ายรูปมาแล้วมาแล้ว All right. Okay. For the upcoming SPE Thailand section meeting. Okay. So in July, on 21st of July, we'll have our technical meeting on undiscovered natural gas resources of Southeast Asia and East Asia from Kun Christopher J. Schenk, research geologist from USGS. In August, we'll have a talk from Kun Carlos Diaz, Global Production Solution Director from Baker Hughes, on how making a shift in production mindset can transform production result. And our big event in September, SPE Thailand season opening. Kun Montri Rawanchai-kun, CEO of PTT, will give a talk on the next chapter of Thailand Upstream, and we plan to combine the SPE Thailand E&P Award announcement to the same event as well. So if you could not remember, you can check it out from our website, from thaispe.org. Okay, for the upcoming event in Thailand, we're gonna have a IADC SPE Thailand Asia Pacific Drilling Technology Conference and Exhibition in Bangkok from 9 to 10 of August. And then of course, in 2023, we will have IPTC in Bangkok in March. So stay tuned for that. If you are interested in other SPE upcoming events, you can check out spe.org/Asia Pacific. And then you can check out these upcoming meetings or workshop or conference. In case you haven't known this, we have several social media platform for you to join. We have thaispe.org. We have Facebook page. We have LinkedIn group. We have Line official as well. So I believe you should be able to be on one of these platforms. So please consider to join, and you can pick up your phone and take a photo on one of these to join. Okay. Okay. Sorry for that. I think it should be our generous sponsor for today for Schlumberger for the lucky draw. Can I have a bag? Maybe show them what we're gonna give. I think you will like it. What we got for today is the history of Schlumberger. 90 years of costly PO, 90 years of technical innovation. Sorry, that's my mistake. We got the very nice cup, the bit cup, bit cup, bit cup, with different context. Bit coffee cup from Smith. Yeah, you can feel the mud and you get the oil of it, hopefully, or another way around. Okay, and we have a golf ball as well. Tillis, yep. All right, that's in the nice bag, the gift bag for today. So may I have Dr. Saifon on stage for the lucky draw,ครับ. We got only two bags now. อยากได้หนังสือขโมยแล้ว
The first prize is start with T, the lecturer from Chulalongkorn University. อาจารย์ทศพลครับ
Congratulations ครับผม
Okay, the second one is the lady. Her nickname start with W. น้องไวส์ครับน้องไวส์
Wise all right
น้องไวส์สิรินยา
Congratulations
Please come
ครั
up
บ
to the
ผม
stage
ใช่ครับใช่นี่ครับผมจะเอากลับแล้วไง เอาถ่ายรูป
เดี๋ยวมันต้องปิดโปรเจคเตอร์
กด B กด B กด B กด B จบแล้วครับผม กด B press B ไม่ทันแล้วพี่เป็นไรกด B Okay if you think you still need more drink you can continue your journey at Rendezvous on the ground floor we have 2 for 1 if you simply say you come from SPE Thailand 2 for 1 until what time midnight ไหม9เองเหรออ๋อ2 for 1 until 9 p.m. ใช่ไหม only to 9 p.m. so you can order and keep it in stock under your table or whatever okay and of course our last and most important slide our sponsor ครับ please give another round of applause to our generous sponsor and that's it thank you ครับสวัสดีครับ have a good evening